Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. This time we're going to be doing a full review on the Tier 8 British turreted tank destroyer, the Charioteer. This thing is lightning fast. It has a piercing 105mm gun that you might know from the Centurion 7.1 and also the FV4101. Pack that into a Tier 8 tank and you've got something that can whip around the battlefield, get into positions that other tank destroyers can't, and still have that tank destroyer firepower to take out its opponents. This is by far one of my favorite Tier 8 tank destroyers, and hopefully I can let you know why, and maybe you can pick up a few tips along the way. Let's quickly run down the statistics of the Charioteer, compare it to other Tier 8 tank destroyers, and then get stuck into some gameplay with a couple of ace tanker games for you coming right up. So the Charioteer has a standard 1050 hit points. Now 1050 hit points isn't a lot for Tier 8, but that's pretty much the same on all of the Tier 8 tank destroyers, as we can see here. Gosh, the SU-101 has even less than 1000. The T-28 prototype, which you would think would have a lot of hit points with its armor and the weight of the vehicle, has 1150. Even the Jagdtiger 88 only has 1300. All of the Tier 8 tank destroyers, apart from the AT-15, have hit points which is significantly lower than heavy tanks and medium tanks of their tier. And this means that you have to play them carefully, especially when you're playing the Charioteer, because it doesn't have a lot of armor. But I digress, we'll get onto that in a sec. Let's focus on the mobility of this tank, which is absolutely amazing. It weighs just over 30 tons when it's fully equipped, but gets a whopping 650 horsepower in its Rolls-Royce Meteor engine. That means that the Charioteer gets amazing horsepower to ton ratio of 21.5 nearly, which makes even the other fastest Tier 8 tank destroyers such as the SU-101 pale in comparison. And this is amplified by the top speed limit of 52 kilometers an hour, which will allow you to get where you need to get to on the battlefield in quite a hurry, and only really light tanks are going to be able to get there faster. Now this comes down to the fact that the Charioteer is built on a Cromwell chassis. They had a lot of Cromwell tanks lying around after World War II, and they wanted to get something more powerful on the tank. They really loved the 20-pounder, the 83.4mm gun, and so they created this absolute bastard of a turret to be able to fit this whopping gun on quite a small chassis. And that means that the Charioteer gets the same traverse speed as the Cromwell of 36 degrees a second, which means that it can run rings round very heavy opponents in close quarters combat. So if you're fighting that E100 that's 2 tiers higher than you, you've still got a chance of being able to out-traverse his turret traverse speed. Now the hull armor, as you would expect, considering it's a Cromwell hull, is unremarkable. It's 63 at the front, 46 at the side, and 38 at the rear, which means that other fast Tier 8 tank destroyers such as the SU-101 have a significant advantage over the Charioteer. But the only other turreted Tier 8 tank destroyer, the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger, has no armor really whatsoever. 20 at the front means that if you shoot this tank with an HE shell, it's going to go in. At least the Charioteer has 30mm on the front of the turret and 60 on the hull. And that means that if you get hit with most HE shells, you're going to take a big slug of damage, but at least it's not going to penetrate your vehicle that often. And now down to the key advantage of the Charioteer, the fact that its turret is fully traversable. It can go all the way round. And this gives you a lot of flexibility with the Charioteer to not have to turn your hull, thus keeping your camo net active, thus keeping your binoculars active, meaning that you can stay hidden and spot your enemies while you can keep firing, irrelevant of their positional change. So we found out this tank is highly mobile, it's got a little bit of armor, and it's got a turret. Surely that means that the gun on this tank is going to suck. Well, that's not the case. You can fit 105mm on this tank, which has a whopping 5.94 rounds a minute rate of fire, with 268mm of penetration on its APCR rounds and 390 average damage. This gun is very similar to the gun that you will have on the Centurion 7.1. However, when we look at the Centurion 7.1's gun, we can clearly see that the rate of fire on it is unexceptional. The rate of fire on the Charioteer's gun, which is a whole tier lower than the Centurion 7.1, is 20% higher DPM. Without sacrificing any penetration, any alpha, a little bit of accuracy down to 0.35, and a tiny bit of aim time down to 2.4 from 2.3. Still, to have this great performing 105mm gun on a tier 8 tank with 20% better rate of fire, you can put 1 and 1 together, guys. If you're a Centurion 7.1 driver, you know how that gun performs, and it's very reliable in a tier 8, even shooting at tier 6 tank setting. It should be noted that the turret traverse speed on the Charioteer is 18 degrees a second. Now that's definitely not medium tank speed. In fact, I think that's even slightly lower than if we were to look at a tier 10 German heavy tank, such as the E100. Yes, 20 degrees a second on the E100 turret. That gives you an idea of just how long it will take to turn the turret on any of your turreted tank destroyers. So having a high rate of fire, pretty darn reliable 105mm gun means that you need to keep firing it quite often if you want to pull out big damage games. And so I strongly recommend that you invest in a good camouflage crew on this tank, and hopefully also having Sixth Sense on your commander. Reaching that 445 magic kind of spotting distance cap, but I'd like to clarify it's not a view range cap because there is no view range cap in the game. Set up like this, it's going to be very hard for your enemies to see you, and you can keep firing at them relentlessly, hopefully at about 375 to 450 meters. But don't take my word for it, I'll show you some in some gameplay coming right up. Let's just quickly compare the Charioteer to some of its tier 8 tank destroyer, its direct competition. And that would namely be the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger, which we see in the center here in the Charioteer on the left. As we scroll down, we see that the Charioteer is so much more mobile than its turreted tank destroyer counterpart. And here's a feature that I really like, 20 kilometers an hour going backwards. Enables you to pull back out of a tricky situation a lot quicker than other tank destroyers can, even the highly mobile Su-101. Obviously, we highlighted that the armor enables you to actually maybe take an HE shell, but you won't be taking any AP shells in this reliably. And your engine power, which is over triple what the Borsig has, enables you to have a double horsepower to weight ratio, while keeping a comparable traverse speed, with superior medium terrain resistances and also soft terrain resistances. Since the view range nerfs hit the Borsig, you've got better view range than that tank, and you've also got slightly better DPM than the Borsig, if you choose to use the 150mm gun. But if the Borsig chooses the 128mm gun, you will be lacking some DPM compared to that tank. And the Borsig's going to have the same accuracy, slightly better aim time, and the same gun depression as the Charioteer, and even better elevation levels. And so we find that all of that mobility and armor does come at a cost, and while this 105mm on the Charioteer is excellent within its own right, it is not comparable to some of the guns on the very lightly armored, not very mobile tanks, such as the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger. Now let's compare the Charioteer to, I'd say, two of the most highly mobile tier 8 tank destroyers. We're going to compare it to the Jagdpanther II and also the Su-101. The Charioteer has the lowest the speed limits, but they're all within 3 kilometers an hour, but it has much superior speed limit backwards. Its engine power rips the Jagdpanther II apart, considering the weight differences between the tanks. But when it comes to DPM, it falls behind the Jagdpanther II and massively falls behind the devastating Su-101. But that Su-101 has 2 degrees of gun depression, meaning that I would never touch that tank, even if this number, well, I think this number would have to be maybe 3,000 or maybe 3,200 before I would start to work with 2 degrees of gun depression, because it's just that frustrating for me. Charioteer has 5, which is okay. We're sort of looking at T54 level here, and the Jagdpanther has a very nice 7 degrees. So all in all, we found out that the Charioteer is more mobile than all of its tier 8 tank destroyer competition, while still maintaining a great flexibility with having a turret. With the drawback being that its gun, the 105mm, doesn't really stand up to the competition, but it's still great within its own right. So let's just take a look to see how the Charioteer can perform in a double helping of gameplay.
Let's get this show on the road.
So here we go, we are playing on Lakefield. This is a lovely matchup for the tank, and I'm going to make the most of the top speed limit of the Charioteer. I'm going to race into position. The position that you see me going into, the front bush of these double bushes here, I absolutely adore in my fast tanks. It's a kind of risky play, but it has a huge reward if you manage to pull it off. Especially when you see the enemy tanks. They don't really have any high-tier light tanks that would love to rush along this position, would love to rush into here. And from this position, I feel quite comfy with my camo rating. All of my opponents are at about 425 meters to 450 meters away from me, and that enables me to rip them apart. We get the early spots and put 2 shots in. I love the accuracy and penetration of this tank. Shooting into the side of tier 7 heavies just feels so darn sweet. He was at 386 meters when we hit him there, but he didn't spot us. The bush is doing us well, and because we don't have to turn our hull, we can sit very nicely in the bush, and also by not turning our hull, we don't break our camo rating. You have a stationary bonus for camo ratings in every vehicle apart from a light tank. So if you can, you should stay still if you don't want to get spotted.
Enemy armor is hit.
The Cromwell there could spot us, and so I decided to bug out. This was one of the first games that I played in the Charioteer, and so I don't have 6th Sense on my crew at the moment. You will see that I also do not have a camo net. And just quickly, I'd like to highlight, check out the clutch shots that the Charioteer can pull off. While it's pulling back, it sort of behaves a bit like a medium tank. Fair enough, it cannot use vertical stabilizers like a medium tank, so when you move, you see that the aim time blooms up to quite a high level. But you can still take your chances and see if you can pull the hits off. Now down this alleyway, the enemy team they don't know where I am, they can't see me, and that's what you want to do in your tank destroyers, especially high rate of fire turreted tank destroyers, allowing us to pick up our first kill of the game on the Chiri there. I don't want to move because I don't want to get spotted by this IS-2. Otherwise, I would get out the way for the Comet behind me. So we slam another shot there into the IS-2. As he runs away, can we finish him off? Doesn't look like we can, as the Comet sneaks past. Now this game, we're only 1 tank ahead still, but we are flanking the enemies.
Enemy armor is damaged.
A nice shot there into the lower plate of the Lurve. I just love having the turret for these kind of situations. It just makes this tank so much better. It would be so awkward for a non-turreted tank to go around and try and put shots into the Lurve there. But the Charioteer, bit of a a roadblock going on here. No one wants to push around into that tier 8 heavy tank. But having that turret just makes me feel so much more comfortable to put shots in. And the 268mm of penetration on this 105mm gun can rip through even the turret cheeks of the Lurve there. And another feature that I love about the Charioteer is how fast it is at the end of the game. This game is less than 4 minutes long, and we've done 4,500 damage. This tank certainly doesn't lack DPM. We whack a shot into the side of the tier 6 Chinese medium tank there. He knocks our gunner out though, because he's firing high explosive rounds at us. And because the Charioteer is so fast, that means that we can clean up like other tier 8 tank destroyers, apart from maybe the Jagdpanther or the SG-101 can only dream of. 5,300 damage in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Can we finish off? Come on, Comet, let's get to the fight. Nice. Finally, for the T-29, up into the back of his tank. 6,000 damage. More than enough penetration to go through that T-29 at a funky angle. and hopefully we finish him off.
Enemy armor destroyed.
What a result for the Charioteer here. This, I believe, was my second game in the vehicle. Hopefully this showed you why I do enjoy this tank a lot. We were able to get into the center position in the front bush, right about over here, spot all of the enemies as they tried to sneak their way across into the town, put about 1,600 points worth of damage into them before they were even able to reach the town. That's a tier 8 heavy tank within itself. Provide view range for my team, get some assistance damage, and have the flexibility with the turret to not have to turn our hull and break our camo rating. And if I'd had 6th Sense and a camo net installed on this tank as well, it'd have been even easier. Of course, this position is quite risky, and if I was in a higher tiered game where their view ranges might be better, or their light tanks might be present, I would probably fall back here and have the same kind of impact, but we just wouldn't get the initial spots on the enemies that you can from that front bush. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats before we jump into some more gameplay. So this was a whopping great game for the Charioteer. We might not have picked up many kills, but we got the Confederate medal for assisting our team in their kills, a high caliber medal unsurprisingly, and a tank sniper medal also unsurprising considering the range of engagement that we were picking our opponents. This was 1,550 base experience and 6,409 damage for our 3 kills. We fired 18 shots, of which 18 hit and 18 penetrated, highlighting the remarkable gun capabilities of the Charioteer. And because we didn't fire any of the Hesh rounds in our tank, we got 53,000 credits profit as well. What a result. So let's just jump right in to some more gameplay.
Let's get this show on the road.
So here we go, we are winding up for our second game in the Charioteer, this time playing on Winter Himmelsdorf. I want to show how this tank can also play in a kind of skirmish. Thank you so much, Mr. VK. I really appreciated that one, buddy. So, the position that I like to go into on this map will be down here. And the reason for that is that if you situate yourself down here, you can have nice clean shots up at the opponents that try and go to the west of Castle von Himmelsdorf. If they do that, you should be able to remain hidden here. But again, this was very early in my Charioteer career, and I haven't got a camo net or 6th Sense on this tank, so I'm going to be a little less confident than I would be if I was in this matchup these days. So here we go. This is where we want to be. We don't want to get spotted down the alleyway by those tank destroyers, but we also want to set up our binoculars and start to spot our opponents that have made their way onto the hill. That 87 managed to sneak across. That was a misplay by me. I should have got my binoculars activated quicker. And because I didn't, I basically allowed that 87 to sneak across. So we're going to go forwards, hopefully not getting spotted by moving our tank, and engage the Lurve. It looks like he's pointing his gun right at me, so I pull back. But it looks like he was actually trying to shoot at this IS that's just sitting behind me, using me as a great big meat shield. So thank you so much for that, Mr. IS. There's nothing more frustrating in your stealthy tank destroyers is to having big whopping heavy tanks firing at you from behind, or flying over you from behind. Luckily we hit our second shot right into the lower plate of the Lurve, and have a look to our left to make sure that the Jagdpanzer is unable to get us. We were unable to loop that shell over the cusp of this wall into his tank, but we put our 3rd hit into his vehicle, and he just simply can't see us. This is where your tank destroyers are rock solid, where your enemies can't see you, and you can still engage them effectively. Now we're going to go for a shot on this Nashorn, and we secure a kill into him. We took a shot for it, not sure if it was worth it. I don't really like to trade a quarter of my hit points to kill a tier 6 tank destroyer, but it's alright anyway. I let that IS go past. He can go on his magical mystical tours. And I come out to try and engage my counterpart, my German counterpart, the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger. He gets shot by the KV-3. Is he going to come out? Doesn't look like it. This KV-3 is taking quite a lot of punishment. I should probably take this moment to highlight the HESH shells on this tank. The premium HESH shells do 480 damage, yet they still have 210 millimeters of penetration.
Enemy is hit.
This means that if you're able to shoot lightly armored tank destroyers, well, lightly armored any tank, if you hit a light tank, if you hit a Borsig, was what was going through my mind there, you're going to be able to wreck them very quickly indeed. The AMX-12T spots us and takes a few shots at us. We're just trying to see a shot on the Lurve here. Can we make it? Oh,
Enemy armor destroyed.
that was an Obama kill. Yes, we can. But this game is not looking too good. We were down by 3 tanks there momentarily. Now we're down by 2 tanks. Trying to look for a shot on this Borsig. This will be another fine shot. We fire it blind and our shell goes very high. So we've loaded a HESH shell now. Not sure if it's going to be useful, but we are firing at some lightly armored targets, such as the Sturmil, the AMX, or the Borsig. I'm just going to wait here. But unfortunately, because I didn't have my binoculars activated, I couldn't see him through here. And he probably managed to get behind this tree. And so he snuck past me. I'm thinking that I might be able to engage the Sturmil where he drives past, but he actually goes to the left, and that means that I won't be able to get him. So I reverse back and try and go gunning for these 2 tanks. Now the Borsig spotted, I'm a lot more confident. I reverse up, trying to find the VK. Oh, disaster. He manages to get into a safe location. And hopefully you guys can just pick up on a little bit of the flexibility that you get with the turret.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
I really don't know what that VK was trying to achieve there, doing a full track traverse. I think the Borsig's aiming at me, but thankfully he isn't. He's aiming at the IS-3. So I pull back and put in a shot there. Kind of a completely unnecessary round, but who knows, maybe the Borsig would have been able to reload for the IS-3 there and put another 490 damage into his hull. So we're still down by a tank here. We've picked up 4 kills and got 2,685 damage. I want to show you how the Charioteer can outplay opponents with its mobility at the end of the game. So I'm really thinking hard about what I need to do in this situation. So I think the enemies, well, obviously the enemies were last spotted here. It's very likely they're going to come flooding down towards this location, maybe try and get me in my last known spotted location here. I think that they're going to attack down this G line, and they're probably going to set themselves up, a few people along here, to try and shoot us out. So what I want to do is to get myself into a strong position, such as this, to put the initial shot into them when I spot them. The Tiger is applying some cap pressure for us, and this means that the enemies are likely to want to go to where at least they know where one of our players is. There's the Sturmil, and unfortunately we leave him with 8 hit points left. We could have rolled a little higher there. I stay put, keep my binoculars activated, and that means that I get to spot the AMX-12T as well. We've created a nice defensive line here, and the enemies really don't want to cross it. The only other tank that I have to worry about is the Jagdtiger 88, who's just been spotted on full health. Our Tiger 1 finishes off that Tier 6 French light tank. That's great for me. I was really worried about the AMX-12T. That's something that you can't stop unloading into you, and when you're in a lightly armored tank, such as the Charioteer, autoloaders really are no fun. Luckily, I can use my excellent mobility to hopefully outflank the Sturmil, and I just get to wait. Let's wait. Oh, he notices me, and he's gone. The Tiger 2 takes a meaty hit, probably from our IS-3, and that's great for us. He was a strong player. He could have very easily carried this game at the end here. He's shooting it out. and he just hasn't quite clocked where we are. Well, actually, he did. Wow, he knew exactly where we were. He's angling his turret in. I guess he's... I guess he was trying to angle his turret to maybe bait me to shooting him in the side of the turret. But in fact, it just gave me a nice flush shot into his quite soft side turret armor there. And when you've got 268 millimeters of penetration, you can afford to go through angled surfaces like that. And this is where you want to be at the end of the game, really. A nice, juicy, slow-moving, big box of a Tier 8 tank destroyer versus a turreted, highly mobile tank destroyer with a much bigger gun. It's not very fair for this Jagdtiger 88 here. We just have to simply find out where he is and then try and get his side or his rear. Wow, he turned around to come and get me. Okay, well, that's my opportunity. I zoom out to take a look to see that he's still committed. He spots us, but it doesn't matter. I can easily track him here. And this is where not having a turret simply sucks in World of Tanks. I feel very sorry for this poor guy as we finish him off at the end of the game. So the end of this game really highlights the stark comparison between two ideologies, if you want to put it like that. A tank which I guess relies on its armor to be able to engage maybe lower tiered opponents and pick them apart, to a tank that is highly flexible and highly mobile, hopefully using your awareness to get into position to be able to outflank and outplay your opponents. Also with a whopping great 105mm with insane 268mm of penetration, enabling you to pretty much go through whatever you're going to fight. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So this time we picked up the kills rather than the Confederate medal, getting a top gun and a high caliber. That's for 4,846 damage for our 6 kills, 1,418 base experience points. We fired 18, of which we hit 15, and all of those penetrated the enemy vehicles. Still managing to pick up at least a small profit, even though we fired a few Hesh rounds there. So games like these have enabled me to have quite okay statistics in the Charioteer. We were actually amongst the best in out of all of my tanks. 1,200 average experience over the 96 games that I played, and 68% wins. And that's because we're able to pull off on average 2,600 damage per game, but a nice amount of assistance damage as well, 725. Spotting on average just under 2 vehicles per game. And averaging 2 kills per game, the rate of fire on this 105mm does enable you to pick up some kills. And the flexibility of the turret allows you to secure them. The Charioteer is almost a mix between a tank destroyer and a medium tank. It has the mobility of a medium tank, it has the flexibility of the turret of a medium tank, and certainly has a gun that will outperform any Tier 8 medium tank. And I'd say that this gun is probably better than the Centurion 7-1's gun. I would take the accuracy loss and the aim time loss to gain 20% DPM. That would be monstrous. All of these characteristics amalgamate into a tank that I truly love, and I pretty much play in at least once for all of my live streams, even though I've got it elite now, I've got the Conway. It's something that I keep coming back to, and I enjoy the playstyle, the long-range playstyle, but still having that flexibility to hard carry certain situations that other Tier 8 tank destroyers couldn't. And you should definitely know that by getting the Charioteer, you're not going to have the raw power of an ISU-152 that is an absolutely devastating Tier 8 tank destroyer. And you're not going to have the DPM of the SU-101, nor are you going to have the health pool or the armor of the AT-15A, and your gun is not going to be as good as your turreted counterpart, the Rheinmetall or Waffenträger. But what you do have is a complete mix of characteristics that cook up into something really special, and I thoroughly recommend this tank. Go and try it out and see if you like it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this tank review. If you did, please consider giving this video a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And if this review has whet your appetite for some more Charioteer gameplay, then click through here and you can go through to see 10,000 damage in a Tier 8 tank destroyer by OxyClean. An absolutely huge round, and it'll show you a lot more of the capabilities of the Charioteer and how it performs under some pressure. And let me know in the comments down below what you thought about this review. Do you think that I've missed any aspects of the Charioteer? What do you think, and how does it compare to its other Tier 8 tank destroyer counterparts, and also to some of the Tier 8 medium tanks? But anyway, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.